Hey everybody, today I'm going to be giving you some tips that I wish I would have known when I bought my first vintage Ludwig drum set. So I hope you enjoy. If you dig what we're putting out, please like and subscribe, and we'll keep putting out information that will hopefully help you be a more informed drummer, purchaser, seller, and just consumer of all things vintage drums. All right, everybody, today we're going to go over what you should be looking for when buying vintage drums. Okay, this is a 1960 Ludwig transition badge set in 14 by 5.5 snare, 13 by 9 rack tom, 16 by 16 floor tom, and 14 by 22 kick drum. First off, you guys got to keep this in mind. You're spending at least $1,500 to $2,000 in some of these vintage drums, so treat them like you would a car. Go up to them, take the heads off, look inside of them, make sure that you know what it is that you're buying. If the person that's selling you these kits is hesitant to you removing anything, then it's probably not a kit that you want to have, okay? First off, you want to look at the hoops, okay? If you are concerned that they might not all match, that they might not all be the same, that some are chrome over brass, while others are chrome over steel, there's a quick and easy test that we can take, okay? We'll start with the snare. As you can see, I have a magnet here. You can take them off of a refrigerator and bring it with you, and then just put them on your hoops. As you can see, none of them here stick. None of them stick, which tells me right off the bat that those are chrome over brass, okay? Which are correct to the era, which is a good thing. Another thing that you want to look at is, obviously, like I said, these were made from 1958, 59, and 1960. So you'll see these larger badges here with the blue silk screen on there. In 1955, William F. Ludwig bought his name back from C.G. Kahn. All right. Prior to that, he was making drums under the WFL brand. Okay. So when he bought his name back, being a little thrifty, he decided to continue using the WFL badge until 1958 when he introduced this badge. Okay. That being said, it is extremely common to run across this era of kit with parts that are mixed and matched from the WFL era, such as the P87 over here that says WFL, the butt plate on the back of the snare that says WFL. Obviously, those two screws are not original. All the original screws of this era would have been domed flathead screws, okay? Another thing that you want to look at, that just to make sure they're correct to the era, on these floor toms, you had the spring clip mechanism on the floor tom legs, and a lot of them will say WFL. If you look down here, you will see that this wrap doesn't match the other two or the bass drum. What happened there, you ask? At some point, obviously, the wrap failed, whether it cracked, it split, it started shrinking, it started peeling back. Something happened and they decided to wrap it. That is something that you want to be slightly concerned with when you're buying these vintage drums, simply because you want to make sure that that tom is not only the same tom that was birthed with the kit, but obviously the same era. Okay, so one of the things that you can look at to tell is going to be your hardware. All right, that'll tell the story. Once again, we're looking at chrome over brass hoops, which is correct to the era. The clips here on the legs are correct to the era. The badge and the positioning of the badge is correct to the era. Okay, during this era, Ludwig placed them there. At about 1964, 1965, they decided to move the badge up to about where the lugs are, towards the top of the batter head. That was done simply for aesthetics and for brand recognition, because a lot of times these would get lost in the setup, but not literally lost, but just where you couldn't see them, and they felt that if they placed them up towards the top, you'd have a better shot of seeing them from a side view, okay? We'll move over to the bass drum right quick. It does have the correct era consolette. You can tell it is the correct era consolette because of the 4 studs that hold it on, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the back side. It does have the spade up here, which is what you use to hang your rack tom off of. Some of these sets came with 2 of these consolettes, and one would be placed over here so that they could hang 2 drums off of it. But you can always tell whether it's original or not to the drum kit by removing it. If it's original, it will show a lot less fading, similar to something like that, where you can see the original versus what's been affected by the sun. So that'll be apparent, as in this bass drum, all over the place. Okay, so those are the things that you're looking at. Extra holes. This one doesn't have any extra holes. These I removed the cymbal stand, or the cymbal arm clamp, I should say, from the drum because it just was in the way, and I'm a left-handed drummer, and this is where I set up my tom. So it was just in the way, so I removed it. I still have it, obviously. When you're looking at these drum sets, guys, you have to know a couple things. One, we value them for how beautiful they were. We value them for the materials they used. And we forget that they sound amazing because of what's dried out over the years. These logs were a lot older than the logs are using today, all the timber that they were using in order to manufacture them. They have a great warm sound. This set and the majority of drum sets made in this era were all mahogany, poplar mahogany. Now, when it comes to Ludwig, like I said, they were known for mix and matching parts, mix and matching woods sometimes. This floor tom, even though Ludwig always said they were mahogany, poplar mahogany, has a maple inner ply. Okay, now a ply is made up of, at least in this case, 3 thin sheets of wood, which are the outer ply, which is mahogany, the center ply, which is poplar, and the inner ply, which is mahogany as well. You can tell it's mahogany because it's going to be lighter and more of a blonde color instead of the darker color that mahogany is, okay? So there's no need to open it. I'm sure everyone that is looking at this video is familiar with the difference between the darkness of mahogany and the lightness of maple. One of the things that you're looking at when purchasing these drums is whether or not they're painted on the inside. This era of Ludwig drums would not have been painted on the inside. Leadie and Ludwig painted the inside of their drums from 1951 through 1955. WFL, which was William F. Ludwig, was not painting the inside of their shells, so these weren't painted either. They didn't start painting their shells, I believe it was until maybe like 61 or 62 is when they started with the white interior shells. These, if you look at them, will just be natural on the inside. One of the things that you're also looking at with these drums, the little quirks that make them great. You'll see glue seepage on the inside of the shells. You'll see chalk marks that the people put on there with the size of the shell, the dimension. You'll see a rubber stamp on there, the date when they were manufactured. You will also see the re-rings, the reinforcement rings. The reinforcement rings on all these shells are going to be single ply maple. Remember that, single ply maple. So if you go and you try and buy one of these drums and you look inside and they're telling you, hey man, this is a Ludwig transition era badge from 1959 or 1960 or 58, and you're looking and the insides are painted white, the re-rings are a ply, not a single piece, then you know that it's either a reproduction or someone is trying to just take advantage of you. So once again, guys, we're talking about a good chunk of change. These floor toms will sell for as much as between like $700 and $900 each. So you want to make sure that you're knowing what you're paying for. Now, a little bit more of the bass drum. When you're looking at the bass drum, down here, you see the green felt. That is era correct. All these era had the green felt. When looking at these drums, all right, you're going to see that they're going to have this nickel set up with the wing nut and the green felt between the shell wrap and the part. here, the bracket, it's green. That means it's correct, guys, all right? That you'll also see that they were using this exact setup in that era. At about like 1961 or so, they went to the one that looks more of like a floor mount, where it's just a bracket that you slide the leg into. Later on, they went to the curved ones that actually telescope into the bass drum. But everything on here is era correct. You can see WFL on the claws, which I think is super cool. Also, guys, if you're buying these claws online, all right, make sure that the shaft here is level with the top of the claw. Though they made tons of different variations of these, whether they were Ludwig or WFL, and if they're not identical to this design, they will not work on bass drums. They might have worked on field drums, marching drums, that type of stuff, but they will not work on a drum set bass drum, okay? So there's a little tip for you guys. Keep that in mind. Once again, let's recap everything here. We have a 14 by 5.5 shell, originally known as the Buddy Rich, later changed to the Super Classic. We have a 13 by 9. We have a 16 by 16 floor tom that's been rewrapped. And we have our 14 by 22 bass drum. Another little tidbit of information, guys. If you want your Ludwig bass drum to have the look of the early 60s, okay, this is what you're gonna have to have. The Ludwig logo has to be high up on the head as such. From end to end, it's only 6 inches, okay, and it won't say USA in the middle. There's a few variations of this one. The one after this does say USA, and then the script starts getting larger as up until like the 70s, where it almost went all the way across the face of the Ludwig head. If you like the information that we're putting out, please like and subscribe, and we'll keep putting these videos out. Thanks a lot.